Actually, one conference was held. United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. So it was held in 1944. And it was attended by, in 1944, in where? Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods in USA, New Hampshire of USA. So Bretton Woods, it may be called Bretton Woods Conference. Attended by 44 countries. Mainly US and its allies. Allies means allies in the Second World War. So UN Monetary and Financial Conference. 44 countries actually attended this. And what was theme of this? United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. So by that time, in July, this happened. By that time, Second World War was almost concluded. So it was almost decided now. It is decided in favor of America. So then they met here. And what was the main theme here? Main theme is that monetary and finance. It was this, how to promote economic cooperation, means monetary and financial cooperation, economic cooperation among the world actually, so that it will lead to promotion of development of world, and it will actually improve economic relations. So it will reduce chance of tussles and wars actually. So this was the main issue. What should be done now? Now world war is second over, and what we should do to overcome this adverse impact, what we should do to promote development of world, what we should do to reduce chances of such events actually, or rather mishappenings in future. This was the main theme actually. And focus was that here was focus on monetary and financial cooperation. So to achieve these objectives of actually overcoming the adverse impact and promoting development of world and averting such wars, etc. So how we should increase monetary cooperation. So it was decided that 3 institutions should be established to promote this monetary and financial cooperation. So what are the institutions? One is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, one institution. Second is International Monetary Fund. IMF. And third is International Trade Organization, ITO. Okay, so it was decided that 3 institutions would be set up, and I told you 3 main objectives, like to overcome adverse impact of war, to promote world development of world economy, and to promote cooperation to avert such problems. Now 3 institutions to be established. So IBRD, IMF, and ITO. Acha, so IBRD and was established or not? When? So in 1944 itself. It was established in 1945. And this ITO? No. Acha, why ITO was not established? ITO was not established because there was some issues between America and European countries. So America, actually European countries wanted that ITU should have some judicial powers. But America said that it will lead to dilution of sovereignty. So we will not allow judicial powers. So on that basis, actually, because of consensus was not evolved between America and its allies, mainly European countries, that is why it was dropped. So ITU was dropped. So these two are actually established. Although they became operational somewhat later. Operational, it became in 1946 and from 1947. So IBRD became operational from 46 and this became operational from 1947. Okay, so these two were established, but ITU could not be established. Since ITU could not be established, then again some countries actually which wanted to establish this, they met in Geneva and in 1947 and they signed an agreement, GATT. Later GATT was renamed as WTO in 95. So I think what the point of ITU was dropped. That is why if ITU could be established, it would be a member of UN. But WTO and GATT and WTO is not member of or related to UN. Although it functions in coordination with these institutions, UN institutions, but WTO is not part of UN. These are part of UN or not? Yes. And these are also called Bretton Woods twins. Why? Well, these were conceived in Bretton Woods conference. So these IMF and World Bank are called Bretton Woods twins. Bretton Woods twins, because these both were conceived in the Bretton Woods conference. Now the question is that why two organizations? Both are financial organizations, both are a kind of banks, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and one is IMF. Now, what is basic difference between IMF and World Bank? Both are financial, yes or no? Both are financial institutions, yes. So why two financial institutions? Why not one? Yes. What is the main difference in IMF and World Bank? Why two institutions were required? Yes, actually the different aspects are there. This IMF World Bank is for, actually there are two main objectives. One is reconstruction, other is development. Reconstruction means war ravaged countries will be supported and development of world will be promoted. And IMF for what mainly? For monetary cooperation, financial stability, for transactions, etc., day-to-day transactions, etc., means to make norms and to promote this transaction, to enable countries to overcome BOP crisis, etc. So this is these functions are very different actually. So we'll discuss in detail just after this. So main objective is reconstruction and development, and here is actually monetary cooperation, transactions, etc. What should be norms, international transactions, so that the overall transaction, etc., would be there. WTO also deals with finance or not? Can we say WTO also provide trade finance? Yes or no? WTO, does it provide trade finance? No, WTO is not a financial institution. It does not give finance. It is a negotiating forum actually. Logic is clear. The WTO has nothing to do with finance as such. So these are financial institutions. Sometimes they may provide trade. Sometimes IMF give finance for trade. Because actually BOP is the thing we don't have money forex to import to make payment, so IMF may give us. Okay, so this is basic difference. Now we'll discuss a few more differences between IMF and World Bank. IBRD rather. Technically, what is World Bank? Usually we say which is World Bank? IBRD. Usually IBRD is called World Bank, but technically IBRD and one more institution collectively are called, yes, IBRD and IDA is called World Bank. We'll revisit after this. And IMF. Now what is difference in, but usually IBRD is called World Bank, but technically IBRD and IDA is called World Bank. So we'll revisit later. Okay, first of all, what is difference between IBRD and IMF? Something I have told you already, both were conceived in 1944. That is, both are Bretton Woods twins. Second, it was established when they were established and when became operational. So rough idea. When they became operational, rough idea is sufficient. Where is headquarter? Headquarter is in Both? Yes. Headquarters of both of these is in Washington. In Washington, DC. So headquarters of both is in Washington, DC. What is name of head of, what is the name of post of head? Head is called president. And head of IMF is called name of the post, not the person. Managing director. Here, chief of IBRD is called president. Chief of IMF is called managing director. Achha, who is president of World Bank? Jim Yong. Jim Yong Kim. Jim Yong Kim. And managing director of IMF, Christine Lagarde. Christine Lagarde. Achha, and managing director of IMF is always from which country? From Europe. And president of World Bank is always from USA. Why? Is it a convention? It is a law? No, it is not a law. It is a convention. And convention, why? Because you know here voting decisions are taken on the basis of voting, and voting is based on what? One member, one country? No, based on share or quota. So means country which have larger share in GDP, world trade, etc. have larger quota. So mainly America and Europe has more than 50% voting power here. So whatever they want, they can do. So they have decided tacitly, implicitly, okay, just take this post, you just keep this post, give it to us. Okay, got the point. So president is always an this American, and here always a European. So, but is it genuine? No, it is not for America and Europe. It is for the entire world. So there should be representation of every country rather. So at least this process should be on the basis of competition. Whichever person is meritorious, maybe American, European, or Asian, or African, should select that. So this is one issue we will discuss. We are demanding that this is not fair actually. You have reserved it for them. Achha, and Ms. Jim Yong Kim, he is also American, but of the origin is from South Korea, but as such he is American. Although for the first time, means any person which is not of American origin became this, but still he is American. Not American origin, but American. So earlier always American were there. So first time actually even Asian origin person is appointed, but still he is American citizen. Okay, another thing is that why these two institutions? What were objectives? Now, main reason is that what is the main objectives? Two objectives I told you main. One is reconstruction. That is reconstruction of war affected countries. Reconstruction of war affected or ravaged countries. So reconstruction of war affected countries or war ravaged countries. So those countries which were affected by a war, so how those countries should be could be supported so that they can overcome that trauma or that effect. One is this. Other objective, I told you broad two objectives: reconstruction and development. That is to promote development. To promote development. Development means what? Means to increase living standard, etc. And to promote development. That is, or that is to increase standard of living, improve standard of living. In which countries? Standard of living in developing countries. By developing in developing countries. The focus is on developing countries. And you know, one very important thing which is related with development is that to eliminate poverty. eliminate poverty. So one very important goal of World Bank from till then till now is to eliminate poverty from globe. So this is a very important concern of World Bank. Achha, and how these two are interrelated actually. Promote development, improve standard of living means development, and remove poverty is also same. These are interrelated. How actually World Bank promotes this? So to achieve this developmental objective, World Bank provide finance and other assistance, technical assistance and other various guarantees, etc. So it actually promotes investment. So other we can say is that to promote investment. To promote investment in developing countries. By providing finance, technical assistance, guarantees, etc. Guarantee, like I told you in DFI provide guarantee like credit enhancement, etc. So main objective of World Bank is to promote actually investment. Just like in India to promote investment and this thing, what World Bank, how World Bank assisted India in early 50s, mid 50s, what was it? ICICI was established by World Bank to promote investment and technical assistance, etc. So this is these are main objectives of World Bank. So broad actually is this and this. Achha, if we see currently, so if we see like these things, these objectives are interrelated. To promote development, improve standard of living, eliminate poverty are interrelated. Now how to achieve this? By providing loans and technical assistance and all these guarantees, etc. to especially to developing countries. And when we say developing, it will include LDCs also. Okay, I think what the point. So these are the broad two objectives. Now, what is current focus on first or second objective now? Second. Okay, this is already achieved or not? This is almost achieved now. It's too long. So now the focus is only on one objective, to promote development and to eliminate poverty. This is the ultimate focus of World Bank now. Okay, so this is objective. Now we will discuss objectives of IMF. What is the main objective? To promote international monetary cooperation. To promote international monetary cooperation. To promote international monetary cooperation. To international monetary cooperation. Okay, so international monetary cooperation means what? Key transactions, etc. What should be norms for transactions, international transactions? Other is to minimize restrictions on convertibility of currencies. Minimize restrictions on convertibility of currencies. Minimize restrictions on convertibility of currencies. Another is to ensure exchange rate stability. Exchange rate stability. To ensure balanced international trade. Balanced international trade. Balanced international trade. And one more, to assist member countries to overcome BOP problems to assist member countries to overcome BOP problems. Achha, now what are functions? Are these functions interrelated or not? Monetary cooperation, minimize restrictions on convertibility, exchange rate stability. So are these interrelated or not? Balanced international trade. So it's related with payment system, international payment system. Like payment system means for making payment, you have to convert into currency, other currency, hard currency. So conversion restriction will not be there. Exchange rate also matters in conversion. And international monetary cooperation, like the transaction norms for international transactions. International balance, international trade, like if there will be shortage actually of cash, or then payment system should be there, so that trade should not be hindered actually. Apart from that, even this BOP also related with this or not? BOP problem. BOP problem is shortage of cash, hard currency. If we don't have, it will affect trade also, trade balance. For example, if some country will face a shortage of hard currency, they will not import. If they will not import, other country will not be able to export. So international trade will be affected. So trade finance and this BOP is also to some extent related. Yes or no? So trade, this is related with actually operational aspects of monetary system, actually how transactions, financial transactions should be made. I think what the point? So these aspects actually, even in case of exchange rate earlier, exchange rate was fixed by IMF only. So there was a Bretton Woods system. In that, dollar was linked with gold. So $1 was equal to 35 ounces of gold, and every currency were linked with dollar. So effectively, every currency was indirectly linked with gold, because rupee was linked with dollar and dollar was linked with gold. So that was called Bretton Woods system, and no country can change exchange rate without permission of IMF. But later, actually, in 1971, that system broke. Why? Because US said that dollar will no longer be convertible into gold. So other countries say if dollar is not linked with gold, so why we should link our currency with dollar? So then system broke. Then different countries adopted different system. Then we adopted fixed exchange system. But as I told you, then later we changed to managed float in which year? In 1993, we shifted to managed float. Okay, so what the point here? Exchange rate stability, convertibility restriction should not be there. Like as per IMF, current account convertibility is must. And international. So are these things interrelated or not? Related with the current transactions actually. So, which institution would be requiring more funds? IMF, World Bank. World Bank. Here it is assistance will be required, giving loan. And here mainly the transactions, mainly the norms of transactions, payment system, international payment system. So what the difference here? What is the main actually focus only on mainly developmental issue here, and here is actually on transactions and this. Like when there was crisis in 91, BOP crisis in India, so we must be taking care of. We must be dependent on IMF. Like recently, like in Eurozone, there is problem. So which institution must be playing an important role? IMF. Or in other words, actually, it will take. If we say in other words, in simple word, we can say in layman's language. It take care of internal balance or external balance? External balance. External balance, BOP crisis, etc. It actually lead to internal balance come under developmental issues. So World Bank give loans for developmental issues. Now, got the basic difference in the functions, and these are all interrelated. Any doubt in this? Which one is how they are related? Every function is interrelated here. And here is only one function, that is development. So reduction of poverty is that only. This is also related with development only. Give assistance to those which are affected. Now for these functions, so short-term loan would be required or long-term loan would be required? Long-term loan is required. So here it usually give long-term loans. Usually up to 5 years, 25 years, sorry, up to 25 years. So World Bank loans are up to 25 years. And even there's a grace period of up to 5 years. So up 25 to 30 years loan. So long-term loans. Acha, here do you think a long-term loan would be required or short-term would suffice? Short-term would suffice, because this crisis is for like in 91 we were affected by crisis. After loan, by next year we improve, means we need not require it. So here usually it give short-term loans. Okay, so World Bank give long-term loans. It don't give short-term loan, but IMF usually give short-term loan. Although loan may be long term, there are different facilities of lending. So loan may be long term, it should be clear, but usually short term. I think it is clear. And what about interest? Concession here, World Bank for developmental purpose. Do you think concessional interest should be there or? Yes. So usually concession interest, but not always. Usually concessional interest. Usually concession interest. Because if loan will be given to developing countries at very high interest, then it will not be much beneficial. Now here it usually charges what? Usually charges concessional or non-concessional. First of all, you know, here concessional interest is important, much important or not? Concessional, if a country is in crisis, so do you think the loan should be given on commercial interest or concession interest? Concession interest is much important here or not? No, not important. More important is timely assistance. It is not for long term. What the point? It is very for short term. The most important thing is that to get finance so that we should not default. Here, interest won't matter actually so much. So interest, because it's for short term and crisis. So timely and adequate finance is more important than the cost. So here it is usually non-concessional. But I'm saying usually. But usually kya? Almost always. So we can say almost always non-concessional. But there's a difference in usually and almost always. Or always bhi keh sakte the hum. So almost always ka matlab hai rarely loan of IMF is concessional. Rarely, but it is possible. Even IMF has started some long-term lending and for poverty alleviation program also, but that is very minor, negligible. Okay, so almost always it is this, and it is usually concessional. Majority of loans जो है concessionally होते हैं IBRD. इसके मतलब बहुत rare कोई concessional होगा, otherwise non-concessional साथ. Okay, so I think got the point. There may be some minor intermingling also, like it also give loan for poverty alleviation, but that is a negligible fund actually are allotted for that. Those are concessional also. Okay, got the point. Term of loan and this thing. Apart from that, this world other function is that World Bank to promote development. It provides what? It provides actually, as we discussed, technical assistance. Technical assistance, especially relating to developmental programs. Especially relating to developmental programs. So World Bank IBRD provides technical assistance, especially for developmental programs. Developmental programs, environmental issues. So it gives actually environmental issues, infrastructure development. The focus of World Bank is on which thing? Developmental issue, infrastructure, maybe infrastructure like maybe roads or even schools, hospitals. Environmental issues, these are focus areas. Here IMF actually it also provide technical assistance. Technical assistance like training to officials, in banking, finance, taxation, etc. Banking, finance, taxation, BOP, etc. So there's a training institute of IMF where actually the officials of member countries can go for training in various aspects. So that objective is that the policy should be professional actually, this thing. So here actually it is, but here assistance is related to the mainly developmental issues, how actually environmental considerations over long-term development here. Here actually the objective is professionalism. The dealing transaction should be more professional, etc. And one more function of World Bank IMF is there, that is surveillance. surveillance. Surveillance means it actually it reviews economic policies of member countries and assess reviews of economic policies. So it conducts review of economic policy and assess risk. So review of economic policies and assess risk. Risk, especially financial risk, and assess risk, especially financial risk, like financial system is stable or is unstable, or what economic problem may be there in a country. So surveillance means actually review of policies and economic situation conditions, and it assess risk, what risks are faced by the member countries, so that risk could be avoided. So here focus on stabilization, professionalization, transaction, etc., and risk assessment. Got the point here? What are broad differences between the functional approaches? One more thing, IMF, when it give actually assistance, usually conditionalities are attached. So here loans are usually conditional. So जो loans हैं, these are usually conditional loans. No, IMF. Surveillance as such is done by IMF. Surveillance regarding policies, etc., and what risks are faced by economy, especially financial system of member countries. So focus of this is on this. Like when there was global financial crisis, it was a failure of IMF. Not as such by, this is not the prime focus of World Bank. So prime focus of IMF, like like even world growth, GDP growth, etc., at world level is estimated by IMF. Like this, it publishes World Economic Outlook, in which world growth, etc. So IMF actually is responsible for that. Financial stability report and World Economic Outlook report, fiscal monitor. Fiscal monitor means it monitors fiscal situation of government. So ये IMF की report है. देखिए जो which institution publishes which report. तो देखिए जैसे fiscal monitor का मतलब है एक report है इसकी fiscal monitor, एक financial stability report. तो ये किससे related है? इन्हीं function से. या World Economic Outlook, ये इसकी रिपोर्ट है, IMF की. और वर्ल्ड बैंक की क्या है? वर्ल्ड डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट, नेम से पता चल रहा है. वर्ल्ड डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट. इंटरनेशनल डेट स्टैटिस्टिक्स, तो डेट का वैसे वर्ल्ड बैंक होता है, हालांकि वो भी कुछ हद तक से रिलेटेड है. तो इंटरनेशनल डेट स्टैटिस्टिक्स. डूइंग बिजनेस जो रिपोर्ट है वर्ल्ड बैंक की है. आई थिंक व्हाट द पॉइंट, मेनली द डेवलपमेंटल इश्यूज आर रिलेटेड हियर, एंड दिस got the difference between these functions. Fiscal non-conditional loan or usually conditional loan, usually. अच्छा, कंडीशन का क्या होता है? देखिए, कंडीशन means कि if a country will borrow up to, country can borrow within in proportion of quota. If a country is borrowing, usually country can borrow up to 6 times of quota. Usually, if a country is borrowing within this quota, then conditions are not imposed. If you borrow more and more, you borrow more and more, conditions be imposed. But the conditions are like that, they are linked with borrowing. Higher the amount of borrowing, more will be conditions only. What the point? This is not condition. This is for development projects. So we cannot say it is condition. So it is for specific development program projects. So as such, there is no condition. And here, IMF said in 91, we will give you loan only when you adopt economic reforms, adopt LPG policy. So we are compelled to adopt this policy. Achha, and here, in the sense here it says you should actually adopt this kind of project, you should modify your development project to increase their effectiveness. So most of our developmental projects are financed by, lot of our projects are, not most, but World Bank, of center as well as some state government, like some highways and some infrastructure projects, actually some environment related project, clean energy project, they are funded by World Bank. I think clear? So World Bank actually provide this assistance as such. Achha, it may monitor, it give suggestion ki you should do this thing, that thing. So in this way. And here conditions and it is usually when country is in need or crisis, then say there must be some reason for crisis or not. Why is the logic for conditions? Logic for conditions is that there must be crisis. If there's a crisis, there must be some flaw. So you should rectify that flaw. That is the reason for condition. Achha, but there's one more thing. Mainly IBRD give loan to which country? Developing, developed? Mainly developing. And this gives loan to which country? Developing, developed? Both, whichever country is in need. But usually which countries need money from IMF? Mainly developing. But currently developed countries like Greece and other countries, like European countries, are needing assistance. So any country can borrow. Achha, but there is a bias against a small developing country here. Why? Borrowing capacity of a country depends on what? Quota. And quota of developing countries will be more or less? Less. Quota of developed countries is large. It means that if a small country will borrow, means developing country will borrow, then its quota is very small. So it has to borrow much beyond its quota. So it means the conditions will always be imposed. And in case of a developed country, even if it requires, it has to borrow much lesser amount. So condition would not be imposed. Yes or no? So can we say it is automatically there's a bias against developing countries here? Yes, because the quota is very small. So whenever they borrow, they have to borrow much beyond that, and conditions are automatically imposed on them. I think clear? Okay, so this is the basic objectives of difference. Now next, from where they raise funds. So source of funds.
Is there any bias in the IBRD also?
No, I am saying there is an inbuilt bias. यहाँ पर inbuilt bias है. क्यों? क्योंकि usually when a developing country would borrow, its quota will be less. It has to borrow beyond that quota. So conditions will be imposed. And in a developed country borrow, then the quota is huge. So it has to borrow within that quota. So conditions are not usually imposed. Achha, here this is not matter of conditions. It just gives assistance for developmental projects. Rather, it gives suggestions that you should design this program in this manner for so that it should be actually it should be more effective. Like even currently, as I told you in Make in India, government is consulting World Bank to improve ease of doing business. So it gives assistance to how to improve business environment, how to promote investment, how to promote development, how to eliminate poverty by increasing effectiveness of development programs. I think got the point. So it gives loan. Which institution must be lending more amount? World Bank much more amount here. Value of loan will be much more here. Achha, now the thing is that they are financial institution, they are lending, both lend. So they must be from where they get funds. Source of fund. So what is source of fund? Member countries. So one is actually what? Share capital. Share capital subscribed by member countries. In IMF we say quota. In World Bank it is share capital. So member countries actually have to subscribe to share capital. So this is one source. But whatever share capital, member country have to pay entire or not? Whatever is share capital, how it is subscribed? 2% is given in in gold or foreign currencies. 18% in domestic currency. And 80% payable on demand. So whatever is share capital, 2% is given in gold and or foreign currency, 18% in our currency. So how much we have to pay? 20%. And 80% payable on demand means we have to pay or not? No. It will be paid if it is demanded. World Bank has demanded? Not yet. So World Bank has not demanded this. So this is not to be paid. Achha, whatever is our share capital. So let's suppose it is $100. So out of $100, $2 we have to pay in either in terms of gold or foreign currency like dollar, euro, yen. And 18% we have to pay in our rupee, Indian rupee. And 80% not to be paid. but it may ask anytime. It has not yet asked and probably won't ask. So I think what the point, so why I'm coming to this point, why it is there. So only 20% has to be paid. Whatever is subscribed capital, so called up is only 20. This is callable. It is called up. तो called 20% मांग लिए और 80% मांग सकता है, callable है. 20% is called up and this is callable. What the point? तो जो भी हमारा अच्छा share capital is based on what? Which country would have more capital? Based on share of that country in what? World trade, world GDP, world trade, etc. World GDP, world trade. मतलब economic size in simple words. This share capital is based on this. So obviously, which country should be having maximum share capital? USA. So USA because the largest share in world GDP, world trade, world investment, and other these parameters are there. Okay. So one thing is that members actually subscribe capital. This. That would also be in this proportion, but it is not paid. Achha, now one source is this, which is another source. Which is another source of capital? Interest, yeah, that is source of income, but main source of fund, original source of fund. Is it a major source of fund? Members' contribution? Yes or no? No. The major source of fund for World Bank is issue of bonds. Issue of bonds. World Bank sells bonds in financial markets, international financial markets in various countries. And it means that if you will buy that bond, mainly financial institutions buy this bond. So if financial institutions are buying bond, then they are giving loan to World Bank. It mainly borrows from world market. So the main source of fund of World Bank is that it borrow and then it lend. It borrows from rest of the world, entire world, and then it give loan to developing countries. Got the point? And the bonds of World Bank are actually given highest rating, AAA rating. So because actually these are bond backed by the entire world. Achha, how many members are there? 189 members are there in World Bank as well as IMF. So members are 189. Means almost entire world is member. Same here, 189 member. IMF, World Bank have both same members, 189. And for membership of IBRD, membership of IMF is must. So first a country has to be member of IMF, only then IBRD's membership will be given. Achha, why it is said? Why it is this provision? Countries would be willing to become member of IBRD or IMF, which seems to be more beneficial. IBRD, because long-term loan, concessional loan for development purpose. Here some conditions you have to accept a lot of things, etc. Here, so that is a country may be reluctant. So that is why first you have to be member of this. Only then you can become member. Or otherwise, also there is a special process. Means exceptionally maximum most of the countries may be saying then you can become. So exception is there. Country may not be member and can become member of this. Although it is possible. But usually country has to be member of IMF. So both countries are same. 189 in both. Here also 189 country. Achha, so what is the main source of fund here? Borrowing. Borrowing means issue of bonds. So World Bank issue bonds and raise funds and will finance. Achha, other source then now apart from the share capital is there, but not a major source of fund. Achha, can you tell me logic for this payable का क्या logic है? Called up capital. मतलब जो callable है वो क्या logic है? What is why this callable? Why there is a need for this? अगर मान ली $100 है, 20 लिया हमसे, तो 20 ही रखते कैपिटल, 100 क्यों किया? Question is that if they are taking 20, they should have fixed capital of $20. Why $100 and then you pay 20? What is the reason? तो फ्यूचर में बढ़ा सकते थे, फ्यूचर में बढ़ा सकते थे, जब नीड होती है तो कैपिटल बढ़ा देते. What is the main reason for this? Because of this thing. World Bank actually has actually raised fund by issuing its bond. It is borrowing, and if there's default on that loan, then who will bear the burden? Then World Bank said, don't worry, you are buying entire world. We have a claim on entire world. What the point? हम callable call करके आपको दे देंगे. इसका मतलब है chance of default on World Bank bond would be less. अच्छा ये नहीं होता तो प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है ना. ये तो ऑलरेडी कमिटमेंट है कि whenever it is asked, every country has to pay this money. So it means that World Bank's bonds are backed by entire world, and this is required for this or not. What the point? कि अगर ये नहीं होता तो if ये callable नहीं होता capital, तो फिर bond की rating क्या होती? Low होती. It would be difficult. So World Bank has to pay more interest on borrowing. So borrowing cost would have been higher. So this is the reason. So it has provided security to this. कि you are buying bond of World Bank. Then if there is a default, World Bank might give a loan to developing country, and World Bank cannot recover loan. So then World Bank can ask all member countries to support. Logic is clear why it is needed. So prime source of fund is this, and to some extent this. Apart from that, whatever is capital it is getting interest, etc., that is also source of fund. So these are the two main sources of funds. Clear? Now here what are the two sources of funds? Mainly the quota subscribed by member. Here share capital, and here quota. Subscribed by members. So quota, how quota has to be paid? Here 75% of quota, rather first 25%, 25% in gold or foreign currencies, and 75 in domestic currency. So what do you think? Entire has to be paid or not? Entire has to be paid. Quota जो भी है पूरा देना है. यहाँ पे सिर्फ 20% देना है. Okay, यहाँ पे called up is 20%, यहाँ पे called up is 100%. अच्छा, but would it be very difficult or not much difficult to pay quota in IMF? Not much difficult, because 75% has to be paid in own currency. The main problem will be here, but country has to pay entire. I think got the point here. So here called share capital, here it is called quota, and here only 20% has to be paid, and here 100% has to be paid. Achha, apart from that, second option may be borrowings. So IMF also borrow. There are special type of arrangement of borrowing. It may also issue bond, but it is not a permanent feature. So usually it borrows from specific countries. So there are various arrangement of borrowing. Achha, but here what should be main source of fund? Quota or borrowing? Quota. Borrowing is negligible. Just when it needs, actually, let's suppose, for example, currently IMF has borrowed. The reason is that it needed much more funds because the crisis in Eurozone has lingered long. So it has to usually give short-term loan, but now those loans have to be extended for long term. So that is why IMF actually borrows. I think got the point? Achha, we are more dependent on IMF or World Bank now. IMF, yes or no? No, why not? IMF is needed when there is crisis, BOP crisis. Do we have BOP crisis? We are one of the largest holders of forex in the world, and we are now net lender to IMF. We are not borrower. We have borrowed. We have lent to IMF. And in 2009, when there was global financial crisis, IMF sold gold, about 400 million ton of gold. Out of that gold, 50% of that, about 200 million ton, was bought by government only, government of India only. So we are not net lender, and we have bought half of the gold which was sold by IMF to enable it to finance Eurozone countries. So India is not much in need of IMF now. Although in future, if there is any crisis, although that is not likely, then we may be needing this. As far as World Bank is concerned, what the point? So we are not borrower, we are not lender, and we have not needed assistance after that crisis of 91. And here we should be needing more or less? Why more? Maximum number of poor are in India. So India is the largest beneficiary of this. Although it is not sufficient for us because whatever World Bank is lending to us, it is not even 1% of our GDP right now. So 1 or 2% hardly earlier. Now even not 1%. So it is not significant. But although India is the largest beneficiary of World Bank, so this is obviously rather more important. Okay, I think got the point of from where they raise funds. So here main source is this and entire has to be paid, and here main source is this and only 20% of share capital is paid. And here also quota is based on these parameters. Those are not exactly same, but by and large these kind of conditions. Are they share in world GDP, world trade, etc., openness, etc. Openness is share in world trade. So this is a source of actually borrowing. Achha, and here quota is used for 4 things. The use of quota is actually for what? So quota is used for one thing is that actually one is for subscription. Quota has to be subscribed. I think what's the point? Okay, whatever is quota, you have to give that money. Second, quota actually also affect voting power. Voting power or voting rights. So if a country actually is having more quota, will have more votes. So here it is not one country, one vote. Other is allocation of SDR. Allocation of, in simple words, it's a kind of currency of IMF. We'll revisit just after this. So in simple words, special drawing rights. So it means that when SDR, recently, SDR were doubled in 2015, it was SDR would be doubled. Then this would be given to whom? Member countries. How? In proportion of quota. Let's suppose we are having somewhat less than 3% quota. So it means maybe like 3%. So 3 quota, if 100 SDR will be created and 3 will be given to India. If America is having 17, so America will get 17. So whenever SDR created, they are distributed among members in proportion of their quota. So allocation of SDR is done. So SDR will result. In simple word, you can understand like currency of IMF. And one more thing, borrowing capacity. Borrowing capacity. So countries can borrow in proportion of quota. So normally up to 6 times of quota. Although there are some special provisions also. So but it is linked with quota. Okay, a small country can borrow more or less? Less. And developed countries usually which are large, they can borrow more. So these 4 things are linked with quota. Okay, subscription, how much money you have to pay, your voting right, how much SDR you will be allotted whenever SDR will increase, and borrowing capacity. Achha, here borrowing capacity also linked with share capital? Yes or no? Now if we see first subscription linked with this, yes or no? Yes, but only 20%, 80% not to pay. Second, voting power, same voting power is linked. Allocation of SDR, it does not have SDR or currency, इससे मतलब ही नहीं है SDR. And borrowing capacity, no. Borrowing capacity will be linked, then only developed country can borrow. So it is not linked. The only thing is that subscription obviously would be there, and voting power are linked. Achha, how much votes in both of these, how much votes are given? Voting power in both votes of a country. For example, like in IMF, in World Bank, first votes are equal to basic votes plus 1 vote for each share. 1 vote for each share. अच्छा, वैल्यू ऑफ 1 शेयर इज $1 लाख, जो $1 लाख का एक शेयर है वर्ल्ड बैंक का. तो वैल्यू ऑफ 1 वोट इज इक्वल टू मींस बेसिक वोट प्लस वैल्यू ऑफ ईच. तो आई थिंक बेसिक वोट्स आर अबाउट 250 बेसिक वोट है. I'll give you example. Let's suppose basic votes are 250 will be given to all countries. Plus, let us suppose if India may be having, let us suppose 500 shares. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग जस्ट इलस्ट्रेशन 500 शेयर्स है तो कितना वोट मिलेंगे हमें 500 इस पे तो कितना हो जाएगा 750 जस्ट अ एग्जांपल तो इफ अ कंट्री इज हैविंग 500 शेयर्स देन अच्छा एक शेयर $1 लाख का है तो 1 लाख इंटू $500 तो $500 का उसका अगर कैपिटल है तो 500 प्लस 250 275 तो दिस इज अ एग्जांपल कि हाउ वोट तो वोटिंग एक्चुअली इट मींस दैट द मैक्सिमम वोटिंग राइट शुड बी गिवन टू व्हिच कंट्री यूएसए तो ऑलमोस्ट जैसे शेयर कैपिटल ऑफ अमेरिका इज अबाउट 17 to 18% ऑलमोस्ट क्लोज टू 17 पॉइंट समथिंग एंड वोटिंग राइट्स आर आल्सो ऑलमोस्ट सिमिलर अबाउट 17% आई थिंक गॉट द पॉइंट अच्छा यहाँ पर भी एग्जैक्ट ऑलमोस्ट सेम है बेसिक वोट्स it is decided कि basic vote के how much basic vote should be there so usually decided in percentage of total votes in general so it is about 250 अच्छा here it is equal to what
These are given to every member like basic votes.
yes vote for every country will be basic vote plus this अच्छा what is use of this basic vote इसका क्या use है basic votes what will be difference from this यहाँ पर भी वही फॉर्मूला है तो कैन यू टेल मी द बेसिक व्हाट इज रोल ऑफ बेसिक वोट्स पार्टिसिपेशन यस कैन फर्दर इलैबोरेट मोर यूनिफॉर्मिटी it will benefit a small country or large country a small country because if this won't be there then share capital and voting will be in proportion now here a small country may not have much share capital but at least this will be given so what will happen voting to a small country will be having more shares or more votes slightly and big country like US would be having more share or more votes more share it means it has to contribute more but voting right will be somewhat less but there is a marginal difference okay for example it is votes are about 17 and share capital will be maybe 17.6 ऐसा कुछ बस minor difference बहुत point में difference आया तो the objective is that here अच्छा तो it means that voting right should be more or less basic vote should be more or less equity के लिए क्या होनी चाहिए more so this is one of the demand कि basic vote should be increased so that at least a small country should also have some say in that but अभी सिर्फ नाम के लिए है there's not much difference actually in basic vote in share capital or votes में so if basic vote will be more then it will be different then a small country would also have some say in this so this we'll discuss one demand is there that is decided by World Bank कि what मतलब how much vote we have to decide so which it is our demand कि vote basic vote should be increased so it is about ऐसे ही करीब अभी I think 5% of total votes के बराबर basic vote है so higher the basic vote more will be you can say small countries will have more voting right अच्छा here it is also same basic vote plus one vote for each quota of $1 lakh sorry for SDR 1 lakh one vote sorry for one vote for each quota of SDR 1 lakh मतलब 1 लाख यहाँ पे $1 लाख का शेयर है यहाँ पे 1 लाख SDR का है मतलब शेयर नहीं है तो जितना होगा SDR उसके अकॉर्डिंग मिलेगा तो ऑलमोस्ट इट इज बोथ आर सेम तो वोटिंग राइट्स आर बेस्ड ऑन दिस हियर तो इन दोनों बोथ इन एक्चुअली इट इज देयर इज नो you can say one country one vote rather votes are based on that okay one SDR about $1.5 so earlier SDR we'll discuss in 1969 पहले initially $1 equal to 1 SDR but now it is $1.5 1 SDR equal to $1.5 approximately okay so this is a source of funds and we have discussed voting okay how voting is done so these are actually same the head of IBRD is president who is president Jim Yong Kim another body below this is board of governors board of governors. Below this, board of executive directors. So president, board of governors, and board of executive directors. In IMF, it is managing director, MD. Then it is called then board of governors. And then executive board. Executive board. Okay, so as we have discussed here, managing director is Christina Lagarde. In this board of governors, who represents board of governors? Every member country has appoints governor and alternate governor. So a country appoints governor and alternate governor in this. From India now, who is governor? Usually from countries, who is governor, who is alternate governor in this? Yes, governor is actually finance minister. Governor is finance minister and alternate governor is RBI governor. RBI governor. So it means that this is same here also same. Governor and alternate governor and same person. So who will be governor in board of governors of IBRD and IMF both? Finance minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley. And who will be alternate governor? RBI governor Urjit Patel. Okay, so in both actually. It meets annually, usually once in a year. So meets once in a year. So once in a year meeting is held. In board of executive directors, here there are 24 directors. Here also 24. So 24 directors are there in both, and out of this 24, 19 are elected and 5 nominated by 5 large quota holders. Five largest quota holders. So 5 nominated, this 19 elected and 5 nominated by 5 largest quota holders. So countries holding largest quota, they nominate 5 members. Same is here. But here recently in one recent reform of this, so here also same 19 elected and 5 nominated, same. But in recent reform of IMF in 2015, now all are actually, this nominated are no more. Now all are elected. So now all of these are elected. So nominated is now removed. Okay, this is as an executive board actually meets on regular basis. So it works actually every country appoint member countries appoint a permanent member in this. India also represents in IMF and World Bank. India also represents which countries? 3 more countries are represented by India. So Nepal and Bhutan and Sri Lanka. These 3 countries are represented by India in both. Represented by India, these countries. So Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka. Both, yes. So Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka are represented. As I told you earlier, publications I've told you already, because the this IBRD, what are main publications of IBRD? Focus on development, like World Development Report. One publication which shows ease of doing business, that is Doing Business Report. Apart from that, World Development Indicators. So these mainly development related actually issues are published by this. Another is, as I told you, it publishes like World Economic Outlook, WEO. World Economic Outlook is published. Another, I told you, Fiscal Monitor, to fiscal situation of member country, Fiscal Monitor. Other is Global Financial Stability Report, Global Financial Stability, because it has to supervise surveillance also. It has to do surveillance whether actually financial system of the world, payment system is okay or not. If there is any risk, then how to address that concern. So Global Financial Stability Report is IMF, Fiscal Monitor. Fiscal Monitor means fiscal situation of member countries. It means sees that whether there should not be risk, because if high deficits will be there, then there will be risk. Okay, these are basic differences between. Source of funds, I have told you already. What is main source of fund in IBRD? There are two sources. What are the two sources? One is subscription to share capital, and second is issue of bonds. It mainly borrows from world markets for lending, and IMF mainly quota. It may borrow also, but borrowings are less here. Okay, now so this is lending. So it mainly lend to developing country, and here to this country. But and here one more thing, lending in IMF depends on what? Depends on quota. More quota, more you can borrow. It means that which country can borrow more from IMF? Developed country can borrow more from IMF. But in case of this IBRD, it is same? No. So here share capital is not linked with borrowing capacity. Share capital is linked with mainly voting only. Okay, the basic difference I think is clear between IMF and World Bank. Okay, now briefly we'll discuss IMF, few more points in IMF. IMF's accounting is done in which currency? Yes, so now under IMF, we'll discuss, IMF has created a currency, or technically it is not a currency, but rather an international reserve. So we'll discuss SDR, Special Drawing Rights. Special drawing rights. Or you may mention something about special drawing rights. Okay, it is an interest-bearing international reserve. It is an interest-bearing international reserve. Created by IMF in 1969. Created by IMF in 1969 to supplement reserve assets of member countries. To supplement reserve assets of member countries. So what I've dictated, it is a interest-bearing international reserve. So first of all, what is this? It is a reserve, and in simple word, we can call it currency, but technically it is not a currency. And one more thing, usually currencies, do they get any interest? No. But if country is holding SDR, then interest is provided by IMF. So it is an interest holding rather currency. And as I told you already, we maintain our forex reserve in how many things? Broadly 3 or 4 things. One is mainly hard currencies like dollar, euro, yen. Another gold. Another is SDR. And even one RTP with IMF. Like there is a kind of it's a type of account with IMF. RBI is having some money in that account. So SDR could be held in forex reserve, and even we can actually earn interest on that SDR. And it is created by IMF in 1969. Why it was created? Any reason? Why it was created? Reason was that there was shortage of forex with most of the countries, lot of countries. There was some, you can say, liquidity crunch at international level. So if a country will not have forex, so it will not import. If it will not import, then other country will not be able to export. So even trade will be affected. Financial transactions may be affected. So a lot of countries were facing problem. So it was decided, why not to print additional currency and distribute among members, so that this liquidity crunch would be over and countries can do transactions easily. So this was the reason, the shortage of forex with most of the countries, or most of the members. Achha, these lend only to members, not to non-members. Achha, if SDR will be created anytime, so then how they would be allotted to member countries? If SDR was created in 69, maybe 100 SDR, let's suppose, created. So which country will get how much? It will be decided on what basis? Quota, on the basis of quota. So more quota, more SDR allotted. I think got the point. So for example, now India, what is quota of India? 2.75. So after increase, so then it means that we will get, if 100 SDR will be created, then 2.75 will be allotted to India. So recently in 2005, our quota was increased actually. Earlier it was, I think, 2.4 something. Now it is 2.75. So member countries are provided whenever SDR were created. For example, even 2015 also, so SDR were created, means quota was increased, or rather almost doubled. Then member countries were allotted SDR in proportion of their quota. Okay, I think got the point here. Why it was created? To address international liquidity issue, liquidity crunch. That is why it was created. And it is a type of currency. So does it has an exchange rate? Yes. So its exchange rate is determined in terms of dollar. To also mention, its exchange rate is expressed in terms of dollar on the basis of a basket of how many currencies? 5 currencies. Basket of 5 currencies with US dollar, UK's pound sterling. So 5 currencies are US dollar, UK's pound sterling, EU's euro, Japanese yen. Earlier 4 currencies were there. In 2016, one more currency was added, which is the 5th currency. 5th currency, renminbi. Renminbi or yuan. It may be called yuan or renminbi. Currency of China, Chinese yuan. It is yen. It is yuan. It may be called yuan or renminbi. In terms of dollar, on the basis of basket of 4 currencies, 5 currencies now. Now 5 from 2016. It was added in 2016. Yuan or renminbi. It is currency of China. So Chinese yuan or Chinese renminbi. So this is Japanese yen, and this is yuan of China. So now 5 currencies are there. No, there will be quota of that also. No, this is India's quota only. If we include that, it is slightly more. It is more than 3. It may be, I think, 3.34 or something like that. So this is only India's quota. Okay, and it is unit of means IMF's accounting. Achha, what is exchange rate right now? Approximately 1 point. I think 1.4 or $5 per SDR. So it means that dollar has, earlier in 1969, $1 equal to 1 SDR. But now about 1.4 or $5 is equal to 1 SDR. It means the dollar has appreciated against SDR or depreciated? Dollar depreciated, means SDR appreciated. And it serves as a unit, means unit of account of IMF and some other international organizations. So also mention that SDR means it serves as unit of account, unit of accounting, unit of accounting or account of IMF and some other international organizations. So, for example, when IMF give loan, so IMF express in terms of which currency? SDR. It will not say this much dollar. It say like quota is in this much SDR. So IMF accounting is in SDR, and some other organizations also use this. And this SDR actually, does it has physical form? It does not have any physical form. So that is why it is also called, also mentioned, paper gold or notional currency. Sorry. So it is also called paper gold or notional currency. Also called paper gold or notional currency. Also called paper gold or notional currency, because it does not has physical form. Does not have physical form. There are no notes and coins. And as I told you already, it is not technically a currency. It is a type of currency, actually not a currency. That is called notional currency, just a notion actually of currency. Or paper gold is an entry on paper, it is as good as gold. So just like we can make payment through gold. And here can private entities can also hold SDR? No. So this is accounting entry. To mention this thing also, it cannot be held by private entities. It cannot be held by private entities. It cannot be held by private entities. So only government actually in BOP accounts this is mentioned. So only it is used only for government to government transactions. For example, if government want to make payment to other country, so how will make payment? So how? But we don't have note or coin. So how government will make payment? If there is no physical currency, so how government will make payment to other government? It is just like bank account. We will debit our account and other country will credit its account. I think what the point? So this is about SDR. And as I told you regarding interest, one more thing. Let's suppose our quota is 100 SDR. So whatever is our quota, we have to pay interest to IMF. Let's suppose we have quota, so we have to pay interest on our quota. And whatever is our actual holding, IMF will pay interest on that. What the point? So if let's suppose quota is 100, we have to pay quota on 100 SDR. Okay, let's suppose our quota of a country is SDR 100. Then this country has to pay interest on this. It is nominal, not high, it's low. So on 100 SDR, country has to pay interest. And let's suppose this country is holding SDR, this is quota, let's suppose. And this is holding actual. Holding may be SDR, let's suppose 80. Then IMF will pay interest on this 80. So effectively, it has to pay on 20. If a country is holding same, whatever is our quota, will be quota, then neither interest will be paid or received. I think clear? So usually interest is not paid on currencies. Here what may be objective? Would it encourage or discourage countries to keep SDR in their forex? It will encourage. If we will keep more than SDR, then effectively we are getting some interest from IMF. So objective is to encourage member countries to keep SDR in their reserves to increase its demand. Okay, so I think what the point? What is SDR? Special drawing rights. Now next we'll discuss IMF and India. Now how we are related with IMF. You know, India is a founder member. So although it was created in 2000, in 1945, although we were not independent, but still in IMF, World Bank, WTO, we are actually, it is written in website also on this, India is a founder member. So it is said that India is a founder member. So along with UK, actually we were member. So India has been a founder member. Apart from that, how we are related? any India actually, you know, I told you few things like in convertibility. In 1994, we adopted current account convertibility. Current account convertibility. We adopted as per the convention of IMF, as per our commitment of IMF. So current account convertibility was adopted by India. Then we will discuss what is current account convertibility. So we have adopted this in 1994 as actually as under provisions of IMF, as our commitment to IMF. Apart from that, now RBI, you know, collect data. Lot of data RBI collect, like monetary data, balance of payments data means foreign exchange investment related data. So that data is actually collected as per the norms or conventions suggested by IMF. So it is called, so RBI actually adopted a special data dissemination standard, SDDS. Usually if you see data on RBI's website, it is written that it is as per SDDS, special data dissemination standards. You know, there are norms, like for example in money supply, which thing should be counted and which should not be counted, like forex reserves, so how we calculate, how we estimate, etc. So the norms for collection and dissemination of data, RBI adopted from IMF. So special data dissemination standard. Apart from that, I told you in 2015, we have one more thing on the suggestion of IMF. Which thing? In 2015, one change was made in estimation system, estimation of what? GDP. So national income means national account. This methodology of national income accounting was changed. Change in methodology of national income accounting. So in 2015, we adopted conventions of IMF, like which changes especially? Basic prices. Basic price means, what is basic price? Factor cost plus production tax minus production subsidy. And now sector wise growth we estimated basic prices. And other major change is that GDP growth is estimated on which basis? On which thing? Market price. Earlier it was on factor cost. Okay, but it is always on constant price. It can never be on current price, as we have discussed. So some changes we have made on the recommendation of IMF. Apart from that, IMF Institute has provided training to government officials. Training to government officials in issues relating to taxation, balance of payments, training to government officials in issues relating to taxation, balance of payments, monetary policy, etc. Taxation, balance of payments, monetary policy, etc. So in these actually issues, forex management, etc., exchange rate management. So IMF Institute provide training to in Indian officials. India, regarding borrowing now, India has been a frequent borrower or not a frequent borrower? Not a frequent borrower. India has not been a frequent borrower. So last time we borrowed from IMF in 1991 actually, but there was a borrowing lending arrangement till 93. So 91 to 93 last time we borrowed actually from 1991 to 93. After 93, that was the borrowing. 93 was the program was under 91 only. So the last borrowing was this. Earlier also we didn't borrow much. Although we did not have much forex, but there was no crisis. so we need not require to borrow. Achha, before that we borrowed in 1981. Although forex were low in India in the pre-reform era, but we need not require to borrow much from IMF. Although BOP situation was not strong, but there was no crisis also. So there was some minor crisis in 81. We needed to borrow. We borrowed, and then major crisis was in 1991. So then, as we have discussed, so what is current status? Do we have some debt from IMF? Do you have liability? No. Now India is net lender. So India has actually lent IMF. So IMF also borrows from members, some of the members. So India is now net lender. So now India is net lender to IMF. So India is net lender to IMF. And even in 2009, as I told you, IMF sold gold, and India bought half of that gold. About 400 ton gold was sold. So out of that half, almost 200 ton were bought by government, RBI. So now we are actually net lender. I think clear? This is actually relation of India with IMF. Now next is we are actually demanding some reforms in IMF. What is India's stand in IMF? So IMF reforms. When we say here IMF reform, so I am talking about perspective of India. So we can say from perspective of India. Perspective of India, or we can say developing countries. Because concerns of India and developing countries are almost similar. So what is demand of India? One thing is that the head, managing director, is reserved. This post is reserved for a European. So India is demanding, and developing countries are demanding, that appointment of MD process should be, the process of appointment of MD should be open to all countries. Anybody should apply, and it should be actually competitive and merit-based process should be there. Whichever candidate is most meritorious should be selected, rather than reserving for this. It is the organization of entire world. Achha, how many members are there? In both IMF World Bank, 189 members are there. So almost entire world is there. So why it is reserved for Europe? It is not actually genuine. So first point you mentioned, the process of selection of MD managing director, MD should be open, transparent, and merit based. Open, transparent, and merit based. Okay, so selection of MD process should be open, means open to all countries. Candidate from all countries should apply. And transparent. Transparent means the criteria for selection should be transparent, should be clear. What will be the criteria? Which qualification will be given? Which kind of experience will be given more weightages? So it should be transparent. It should not be a discretion like we will then decide later. So it should be transparent process. What will be the criteria for selection of candidate? Which qualification, experience will be given more weightage? And it should be merit based. So obviously, the selection should be merit based. The most meritorious candidate should be selected as MD. Clear? Achha, not only MD but other staff. Other is that next point you mentioned, staff diversity. To be increased. So currently almost entire staff is from America or Europe. So obviously if a staff will be there, so it will enhance actually sensitivity towards other regional problems also, Asia, Africa, etc. So there should be actually, the entire world should be represented. So in a staff it should also be diversified. I think clear? Other is quota formula. To be reviewed. Quota formula to be reviewed. Quota formula reviewed. Actually, the quota of a country is based on what? It is based on share in world GDP, share in world trade. So it is based on like share in world GDP. Similarly, share in world trade. This may be called openness, etc. Such variables are used. Now, there is one problem in case of world GDP. So GDP should be taken in terms of PPP or market action rate. It should be based on PPP or market action rate. Currently, the practice that 40% GDP is considered, 40% weightage is given to PPP and 60% weightage is given to market action rate. Right? Currently, both are used for considering quota of a country. 40% weightage is given to GDP on the PPP and 60% on the basis of GDP on market action rate. So, what do you think? What should be there? It should be entirely PPP. So, our demand is that GDP should be not 40%, entire will be PPP. Why? Because which is actual GDP, which shows in real terms. PPP shows in real terms. We said not 40%, it should be 100% on PPP, not on this. Because as we have discussed, there is significant difference in India's GDP. How much is our GDP in terms of market action rate? 2016 में कितनी थी? Market action rate. Market action rate about 2.2, and on PPP it is about 8 or 8 point something, slightly more than 8. So there's a 4 times difference. You can see significant differences there in market action rate and PPP. So that is why, and PPP shows actually real work. Even IMF, World Bank themselves use PPP for actual comparison, for analysis. So it should be used. I think, what the point? Achha, one more change in this quota formula. Got the point here? So that actually developing country should also have a say. Achha, other thing is that basic votes relating to this voting. Basic votes should be increased. The basic votes. So I told you that votes are based on what? Like vote of a country will be equal to what? Basic vote plus 1 vote for each quota. For each, actually 1 lakh SDR quota. So it means that basic vote plus depending on quota. The 1 vote for each 1 lakh SDR. So it means that which country would have more voting right, which is having more quota. But if basic vote will increase, so it will increase, what will be benefit of? If there will not be basic votes, then if basic vote ko hata denge, the formula we have discussed ke votes granted to a company is basic votes plus 1 vote for each SDR 1 lakh. 1 lakh SDR पे 1 वोट मिलेगा. अच्छा, अगर बेसिक वोट नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा? सेम हो जाएगा, प्रोपोर्शनेट हो जाएगा. वॉट एवर इज योर कोटा यू विल गेट द सेम. बट बेसिक वोट्स से क्या फर्क पड़ेगा? ऑफ स्मॉल कंट्रीज विल इंक्रीज डिक्रीज? Increase, because small country will not be having much vote, but still they will get some basic vote. So it would enhance say of small countries. So there should be a say, because you know this is, you are not giving, we are not demanding one country one vote, but at least some say should be there. So it will increase actually some say of small countries. I think what the point. So we are demanding this should be increased, so that developing countries and small countries should have say in that. Right now they have no say at all, so they are just a member actually. Clear? Another is its resources should be increased. Resources means funds. Resources should be increased. Resources, why? Because you know usually when country need funds, so IMF usually don't have so much funds to lend. So the quota is, the country can borrow within quota, so resources are limited. So countries want so that actually if there is crisis, so it can effectively help countries. So for example, even in Eurozone etc., IMF was not able to lend much more. Mainly the European Central Bank and European Union we will discuss. in that section, they are mainly arranging under various facilities. So IMF funds are very limited actually. So they are not sufficient. I think what the point to, and it was as I told you recently, funds increased or not? Yes, the quota was almost doubled. SDR quota was almost doubled. So this was accepted. Another point is double majority voting. Double majority voting in case of major decisions. Double majority voting in case of major decisions. Double majority voting in case of major decisions. What is double majority voting? For major decisions, two voting should be done. One is voting on the basis of double voting means voting on the basis of this votes as per the current system, plus that vote should be approved by majority of members. If let's suppose IMF has to take a major decision, so currently if they will take decision on the basis of this votes on this system of votes, then decision is finalized. So they said the developing countries are demanding for major decisions, so on the basis of voting, like America and Europe has more than 51% votes, so they can take any decision. So in case of major decisions, there must be actually a one country, one vote should also be there. At least more than half country should say yes, only then you should implement major decisions. So right now it is fully controlled by America and Europe. So it is not desirable that America, Europe should take all major decisions. Okay, you can take decision, you can manage, but for major decisions, at least majority voting should be there. At least half members should say yes. I think what the point? So double voting. One is this voting, other is majority for major decision, not for normal decision. So America, Europe, they can have management, no problem, day-to-day management. But for major decisions, then at least half members should be consulted, should say yes, should ratify that. Okay, I think what the point? These are broad actually demands of India. And as I told you, some of these demands were partially, they were addressed. Some of these concerns were met. Like I told you, IMF reforms. So in 2015, some actually reform measures were adopted. Like what reform were actually adopted? As I told you, SDR quota was doubled. So SDR quota was doubled. You may write down few reform measures. To IMF, this SDR quota doubled. Next, you mentioned more than 6% quota shift. More than 6% quota shift from developed countries to dynamic emerging economies. To dynamic emerging economies. To dynamic emerging economies. So as I told you, our quota increased. Even similarly, like dynamic emerging economies like India, China, Brazil, Argentina, so fast growing economy. So because our share is increasing in world GDP, world trade, etc. So certainly our quota should be increased because the basis is this. So that is why actually quota actually of India, China, etc. was increased. But that was a marginal increase, not much, because still our quota is about less than 3%. Although in real terms our share in world GDP is 7.5%. So it is actually almost 1/3 as compared to our share in world GDP. So overall, although our share in world trade is relatively less, so but overall India is not fully represented. Means our quota does not reflect overall size of the economy. So still there is significant, you can say, gap. Okay, I think what's the point? So this so quota was this our quota increased. So whose quota must have decreased? developed countries quota was 17. So 6% quota of developed country would be reduced, and that was to be distributed among developing countries like India, China, Brazil, these countries which are growing at fast pace, whose GDP has increased now, and world trade share in world trade has increased. Clear? Apart from that, as I told you, in governing in this executive board, there were some 5 nominated members. No, not equal. How they can distribute equal? The quota of China increased much more than India. Significant. There was significant increase in China's quota, but India, Brazil, other countries quota increased but less. So it depends on how much actually, what was the progress actually, because China has been the fastest growing economy in the last 3 decades. So obviously China's increase must have been more as compared to the country. Other, as I told you here, earlier in executive board there were nominated members were there. So it is decided now there will not be any nominated member. Earlier 5 largest quota holding countries, they used to nominate. Now that is abolished now. So to mention this thing, executive board will have all elected members. All elected members. So now all elected, it means that there is no nominated members. So earlier 5 nominated members were there. Now 5 nominated members will not be there. All 24 will be elected. Apart from that, there is some reservation of seat in that. Whatever is the number of seats allotted to Europe, those 2 seats will be transferred from European countries to emerging market economies. So mention this thing. 2 seats to be transferred. 2 seats in the 2 seats in the executive board to be transferred from European countries to developing countries. So 2 seats will be transferred. Means the developing country would have more actually seats in executive board also. So these actually reforms were initiated. These reforms were already decided in 2010, but why they were implemented in 15 only? The reason was that these reforms were not ratified by US. So US actually held back this reform. This thing should have been done 5 years back, or even now is much earlier back. So, but actually US held up this. So US did not ratify it. That is why these could not be implemented. So we were demanding this quota reform, actually quota and governance reform actually should be implemented. So finally it was adopted in 2015. But still it is actually a kind of partially these problems, these concerns have been addressed. As I told you, we are still much underrepresented, and even other developing countries as well. Still America, Europe actually, they can dictate policies here. Okay, I think got the point here. So this is regarding IMF. So we have discussed what is IMF, how we are related with this IMF, and what are India's demand. One more thing, demand of India in World Bank are also almost similar here. Like here we will say MD, here in World Bank we'll say president, the president, because right now president, as I told you, is always from America. So we want why it should be reserved for America, it should be from any country. So similarly, staff diversity, same thing. Same, there we don't say quota. In World Bank we say share capital. So share capital actually, formula of actually share capital should be revised. So almost similar things are there. Same for voting, basic votes. Same for funding, because resources of World Bank are also not enough for promoting development at the global level. In case of World Bank, which country is the largest borrower? Which country must be largest borrower from World Bank? India. Why? Very simple. Maximum poor are there. Maximum population is huge and number of poor are maximum. India is home to 1/3 as per World Bank. 1/3 of the world's poor, 33%, are living in India only. So India is home to 1/3 of the world's poor. So obviously the main focus of World Bank is to eliminate poverty actually now. So that is the reason India is the largest borrower. And how much we are borrowing? whatever we are borrowing now, it is hardly about 1%. Earlier it used to be 1 or 2% of our GDP. So is it sufficient for India? No. So right now it is about 1% of our GDP. So earlier at the most it used to be less than 2%. So it was never more than 2% of our GDP. So although we are largest borrower, but still it is insufficient for us. It is negligible for us. So we want funding should be increased so that reasonable adequate fund should be provided. Okay, so even double majority voting also in World Bank also. So our demands are almost same. But just you have to change the name here. Instead of MD, you have to say president, and instead of quota formula, you have to say share capital.